إيمان وايلة أكسيدنت اتنرابة ناشة ليعطي متبصل طاقة شكلي. اتلان نسيانة بدنا كيسس injury law و بيالباية قريمخ. إن آتن ينكل باتت بيتا خزموخن يطانة اتلوخن بوقارة مخبرون المنيان التلفون 8 أربع شوا وشو 8 تري وشو 5 خا يعني توكن بيت injuryrights.com. شمي إلى توني كالاغراكس كي يمزمن لشان خلية يما.
Welcome to Assyrian National Council of Illinois. Where we provide home care services for the elderly 60 years and older. For over 20 years, ANCI has worked closely with the state of Illinois to strengthen and expand our home care program. We currently service the Chicagoland area, including Cook, Kane, and DuPage counties. If you are interested in finding out more about our home care services, please visit us at our Chicago or Streamwood office.
Shalom Aleichem, everyone. My name is Maria Mashaya. I am a recent graduate. I graduated from Columbia University with my Master's in International Affairs. And since then, I have been doing a lot of advocacy work for Assyrians. My focus is more so on land rights, but recently I've been helping Joe and a lot of other Assyrian activists launch this HR resolution to recognize the Semele Massacre. So without further ado, I will go ahead and jump right into it. I don't really need to go into the deep details of what happened in Semele, but I will talk about it very briefly. This was a massacre conducted after the state of Iraq was officially formed, and it was a coup against the Assyrians because the Kurdish and Iraqi majority thought that the Assyrians were plotting to kind of overthrow the new Iraqi-found nation, and it was led by I can never say his name right. Bakir Sitki. Thank you. Was never able to pronounce that. But he led the massacre. He is a Kurdish general he was a Kurdish general at the time, leading the massacre. And approximately about 6,000 Assyrians were murdered during that time. And the next slide is a little bit graphic, but these are pictures that I took on my Gishru trip when I was visiting the Semele site. So there's a trigger warning. If you do not like seeing human remains or any of that stuff, please put your head down or feel free to step out. I'll give you guys about a minute or two. Okay, guess we're all cool with that. So this is what Semele looks like now. It's not in the best conditions, especially knowing that a massacre happened here. You can still see that bones are protruding out of the ground. On top of that, there is I believe that is a cellular cable on top of where, a cellular tower, thank you, that was built on top of where most of the bodies are found. And the Iraqi government will not investigate it as a genocide or as a massacre because of that tower. So I just wanted to point out a few key points. Assyrians were left vulnerable during the Kingdom of Iraq when it was formed. They were not granted autonomy or protection. And the British authority that did have mandates over Iraq around that time authorized the exile of Ammar Isha Shimun. And it was more so because he was also demanding for Assyrian autonomy in that area, and that was not something that the Iraqi government was in full support of. For some international response, the Semele massacre drew international attention and condemnation. There were several people that stepped out and said that that was one of the worst massacres that they have witnessed. And it was actually, the Semele massacre, along with like other genocides, was what lawyer Raphael Lemkin used to coin the term genocide. And that is now a common term that's used in international policy and international debates when referring to massacres. And obviously, many Assyrians were left displaced. And I could share a personal story about this. My great aunt, who passed away about 2 weeks ago, actually, when she was married, she lived in Nala with her husband, and then they decided to move to Semele, like around Semele. The massacre broke out. They were able to relocate to Syria, and then in 2014, ISIS invaded, and they moved back to Semele. So those are some of the displacements that happened, and it's only continued until this day. So as you can see, like in present day, the Semele site is still in really rough conditions. Again, bones are protruding. Kurds use that place as like a dump. Last time when we went on Gishru, there was trash everywhere. And so with this resolution, it will help us kind of kickstart the investigation of this being an actual genocide. Right now, there is talks within the Iraqi government that they may or may not recognize it, but it is important that we continue to push for that. And then just moving a little bit forward, I'm just going to talk a little bit of what HRES means. So a House resolution means it is a simple solution. So this will go to the House of Representatives. If passed, this will not go to the president. However, if this is passed, it could be used to provide advice for foreign policy making. And as you can see, this has bipartisan support by Arizona Congresswoman Debbie Lesko. She was one of the people that spearheaded this resolution. And Congresswoman Jan Schklowski from Illinois, Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, and many others, Democrats and Republicans alike, support this bill. So what happens if this passes? So just because this is a simple resolution doesn't mean that it's undermined. If this does pass, this could be referred to the House of Foreign Affairs Committee. And then after that, we would like to kickstart another resolution that will go to the Senate. And if this receives enough clout, then that will go to the president for further consideration. So it is important that we get as many signatures as possible for this resolution. And if you guys are wondering where you sign up, I made a QR code that you guys can all take out your phones right now and scan. It'll take you directly to the site to go ahead and sign the resolution. Please share the link with all of your friends, your family members, your thousands of cousins, even if they're in Australia, like let them use your address. But please, this is very important that we have this resolution passed and that we have more bipartisan support on this matter. And we would like to start the Senate resolution as soon as possible. But that ends my talk on the Semele Massacre and the HR resolution. So now I'm going to pass the mic to Ms. Carmela Barashan.
Thank you. That's okay, I'll sit here. كم تدخل بيان منطقتنا من Assyrian Federation كدا opportunity كدا جمعة الرابع شابر تتقد جدا يمانويا نيله. I'm going to be speaking in English. It's more comfortable for me when I talk about humanitarian because that's the bulk of work I do. I am part of the executive committee of Assyrian Aid Society. My responsibility mainly is outreach and to a limited point of advocacy. As a humanitarian organization, or any humanitarian organization, there are two prongs to this organization. One is fundraising through either Assyrians or non-Assyrians. The non-Assyrians I approach, and also raising awareness for human rights violations. Assyrian Aid Society, yesterday, the president and vice president of Assyrian Aid Society did a beautiful presentation of the achievements of this organization, which has been established for more than 30 years. We have raised close to $14 million in the last 30 years, and year to date, we had raised $900,000. The demand is horrendous. The needs are a lot. We are asking for every Assyrian, God puts it in your heart, help these organizations, our organization also, which can help the Assyrians. Why do we do this? Because we're trying to create an environment that is suitable for existence for our people in Assyria. I call it Assyria or Nineveh. Raising awareness for human rights violation is basically my responsibility. And the problem in the world is every time there's a disaster in a region or a country, the funds go toward that country or that region. It was once upon a time ISIS, then Afghanistan, then Ukraine, and Nigeria, and as it moves, now its focus is on Armenia, the Karabakh issues. With that said, the attention to Iraq has dwindled down, and the funds have been reduced to help us. Every time I talk to so many NGOs that are called non-governmental organizations or other humanitarian organizations or other entities, organizations, they all address that we do not focus on Iraq, or they say we don't have the funds to help you guys. But fortunately, there are ways to work. But that said, there is a sliver of hope for Assyrians. From advocacy perspective, what is that? We have very brilliant, high IQ Assyrian activists. One of them sitting right next to me. One thing that we need to work on is have a united front in order to push and address the violations. The violations are a lot. Violations are, Assyrians are not getting hired. If they are hired in the northern region, they are hand-picked, they're tokens, and some of them are females because they want to show the Western world. We are not only hiring Assyrians, we're hiring women. Look at Western world, how advanced we are. And I address that to a lot of entities that I meet with them. There are roadblocks or checkpoints by Assyrian villages. There are 5 checkpoints that is suffocating our people. Another highest issue that is discouraging extremely to our people is land grabbing. It has not been resolved. There is a committee created in Iraq, in KRG, the section, that has prioritized the lands, which one is easier to get back to the rightful owner and which one is not. We have not seen any outcomes of it, but it is created. But I always say in Middle East, people talk the talk, they don't walk the talk. And this sliver of hope that I mentioned is if we become respectful of each other and hold hands, agree to disagree, knowing the goal is Assyria, we can work together as long as we have a good emotional intelligence to move forward. This is not about me. This is not about an organization. This is a much bigger issue. It should be a burden on everybody's shoulders and heart. And when I meet with these entities, one of the things I address, I call this soft genocide. When they don't support Assyrian schools, which Assyrian Age Society helps them quite a bit because we have to have our language sustained through the history because that is the backbone of any nation. Schools are not supported or there is minimal support of it. Assyrian Age Society hires lecturers where there is a vacuum of teacher. We print the books. All curriculum are in Assyrian, and I strongly encourage every one of you to make a visit there because our schools are most impressive work of art any nation can have. It is extremely impressive and it's a showcase that how our people get educated in chemistry, physics, math, all the curriculums. And now, fortunately, we have got a grant that we can print our own history book because the history book that we have is translated from Kurdish history books. And unfortunately, it does not speak much about Assyrians, and it has a couple of inflammatory statements. And with this grant, we can teach our students outside the 8 hours of school time. Which is a very good win, and that is spearheaded by Dr. Nicholas Jalil, and Dr. Rabi Farid Iliya. The other part of my work is UN work that we do, because Assyrian Age Society of Iraq has a consultative status in United Nations for indigenous peoples' issues. Last April, I went there with one of my colleagues, a Syrian gentleman from Australia, because unfortunately the president of the Assyrian Age Society of Iraq, Rabbi Yonan Lazar, could not get a visa, which I addressed it to State Department. And we did three presentations, one of which I did, and one of the things I addressed, I said, is so heartbreaking that for the last 11 years, we've been coming here, addressing Assyrian plight, and we have not seen the fruit of the labor, the fruit of our issues, the issues brought to you guys, and also it feels like we sound like a broken record. And when I talked to head of the Human Rights Council in UN, we were there for 2 weeks. I addressed it. I said, what have you guys done in Iraq? Can you give me an example? Oh, we have done a lot. I said, but I don't see the situation getting any better for Assyrians or Yazidis. We are the two people that got the worst of the worst after the 2003. United Nations, as you may know, it's a huge entity, and the bureaucracy is huge. And the governments of the world pay the money to become member of United Nations, and all kind of governments, most corrupt governments, pay good money so they can have a voice in decision makings. So it is like an onion. You have to peel it in order to find the rightful people that can help you. And I have been meeting with a lot of United Nations organizations such as UNESCO, UNICEF, World Health Organization, and Human Rights Council. Fortunately, a couple of days ago, I received an email from Expert Mechanism or High Commissioner. They have rapports that we need to meet with them to see how we can work together in order to help this nation that is struggling for survival. I set up a lot of meetings in D.C. I travel there sometimes twice a year. With that said, we have met with USAID. I met with them in Iraq as well. One of the responsibility of USAID in Iraq is to keep an eye on election. And when I talked to this, she had a PhD in her field, and I said, what happened to USAID when the election in Iraq and central government was happening, when they closed the seats or took away our 5 allocated seats for the Syrians? They didn't have an answer. Have they helped us? Yes, after ISIS. But keep in mind every time, and I have addressed that again to many of these organizations, that ISIS left, but the destruction is still there. In these countries, like I said, they talk the talk. They don't walk the talk. They don't care for human rights. They care for their own pockets. And where is this money that is supporting KRG? Where does it go? Where is accountability for that finance? And these meetings have been with United State Department, several meetings with State Department, several meetings with Humanitarian Council of United Nations. I had meetings with Preemptive Love, Mercy Ship, Catholic Charities, Hardwired Global, you know them all of them, International Republican, Stand with Iraqi Christians, ACT Alliance, Project Hope, YouServe, anybody you can imagine, I have knocked on the doors. And I call myself professional beggar because I knock, the first thing I address, is there any way we can work, collaborate on financial aspect of our needs? And then I address the human rights. And when I address human rights, I make sure the president of Assyrian Aid Society from Iraq is present in these meetings, especially when it is with State Department, because I don't want to get into the political aspect of it, because I want them to hear it, as we say, from horse's mouth. Because one of the things that KRG is saying is, oh, they're in diaspora, they don't know what's going on. Or they say, oh, these Assyrian activists from Iran, what do they know what's going on in Iraq? And there are so many other things that they address in order to nullify us. When I talked to Rabbi Farid Ilya, I said, when you address the issues to the KRG parliament, what do you hear from them? He said, after I addressed all the issues, they said, we agree with you, but you're anti-Kurd. And that's the word that they try to dismiss us in DC as well. All right, Kurds have been supported by United States for the last 30 years. United States as a country needs a safe haven in order to have its base there. This is the politics of the world. Assyrians did that too when we had empire. All the governments do that. And everybody can disagree with me. I respect that. We all view things differently and interpret them differently, and I respect that for everybody. Everybody has to make a choice as well. United States against Saddam at that time created a safe zone or free fly zone, and now they need Kurdistan because they are 40 million Kurds in all over the world. We're 3 million that we call ourselves Assyrians in the world. They need Kurdistan against Iran, against Shiite militias in the south. They need them against ISIS in the east and Turkey in the north that is becoming more powerful. Okay, we understand that. We understand that because in one of the meetings they said, what do you want, Carmela? I said, I'm not asking for a country. I'm not asking for anything except don't violate our human rights. We are the Assyrians are citizens of the land. Respect them as such. And they have rights as well. Kurds need America desperately. America needs Kurds. We respect that. But at what cost? The cost of destruction of a nation that has more than 6,000 years of history. One of the nations that accepted Christianity and did the hardest work and paid the bloodiest dues for their faith and ethnicity. And Yazidis, of course, we cannot ever ignore them. We have to stand by each other because if I ignore them, they ignore us when they have a voice. We need to stand by each other. We need to help each other. Don't assume that Kurds are all bad. There are good and bad everywhere, including our Assyrian people. Kurds, there are a lot of Kurds that are very supportive of Assyrians, not in KRG team, but as individuals. Kurds are fed up too with the government. There was a mass exodus of Kurds in from Iraq, but they don't get destroyed when they leave their country. We do. Yes, thank you. We do. When we leave, we're done. My son speaks Assyrian, reads Assyrians, writes Assyrians. He's not going to stay Assyrian. That's the nature of the issue that we have to face. 5 years ago, when I attended International Religious Freedom, it's not about religious, it's about all the humanitarian organizations all over the world gathered there. Commissioners are there, State Departments there, politicians are there, NGOs and humanitarian organizations. And I was able to open a door to be able to get in there. They, first time when I went there, 2,000 audience, they said, well, work with Kurds. Kurds are very good people. I said, yes, there are good and bad in every nation. We're not talking about individual Kurds. We're talking about KRG policies. I'm not against Kurds. I'm against the human rights violations. It doesn't matter who is in the power. Second year we went, and I talked to 2,000 people there. Second year they said, oh, work with Chaldeans. I said, yes, we do work with Chaldeans. Chaldean church, there was a sechism in 1500s when it split the church, and that's the denomination. I don't come to you guys and say, yeah, I'm evangelist, and then I say, yes, I'm Assyrian. We all are Assyrian with different denominations. And then third year we had the COVID, fourth year we had an activist Assyrian came from Iraq, did a very good job in presentations. And the fifth year, Yonan Lazar again, unfortunately, president of Assyrian Aid Society of Iraq, couldn't get visa, and I ended up being the speaker. In 2 days, they brought an Assyrian lady that was handpicked by KRG, has a high-profile position. In 2 days, got visa, came and sat next to me. They brought her and made sure she sits right next to me. Give me 1 more minute, please, so I can explain this. And a KRG member on my right side. So the lady on the left side, Assyrian, she said, yes, Assyrians, Chaldeans, we live very good. We are different nationalities. And we have first grade and kindergarten, all in Assyrian. And then my turn came. I said, when I talked to her, she said, I don't know why I'm here. I've been told just to talk highly of KRG. Of course, she gets paid for them, by them. And when my turn came, I said, with all due respect, we not only have kindergarten, we have first grade all the way to 12th grade, all in Assyrian curriculum. And I addressed all the struggles Assyrians go through. And then the KRG member spoke. He said, I'm not here to defend ourselves. First time after 5 years, KRG was on defensive. It wasn't like previous years that were very assertive and sometimes aggressive toward us, because in one of the meetings, they attacked me. With that said, he said, I don't defend ourselves. We have a long way to go to learn things. So, and then the moderator asked Carmela, can you explain what is the highest thing that we need to look at the Assyrian situation in Iraq? I said, land grabbing. And then I turned around and told this gentleman, you don't need 20 years, 200 years, 2,000 years to understand when you steal somebody's land, it's wrong. You don't need experience in that. So we have a sliver of hope. Let's work together. Young generation, we have to pass the baton to you guys. I can pass all the informations I have. I can train you. Fortunately, Juliana Khamu, bright young lady, Ashurina, bright young lady, I've been working with them, and I'm hoping that they can take this baton and run with it, because I call ourselves an Oreo generation. You didn't see it. We heard it from parents. We are giving it to new generations, so we are conduit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carmela. So, هايتون رابع بسيمة قدا برسات إقارة قاتي لقد مقرون قاتوخن دبران داور برا يوتا إقارة لقاتي أخنوخن شوتوبم تون أمان تيتون قدا كنشا. Thank you for coming. As a past president of the Federation, it's an honor to be here, and I thank you for coming and supporting the Federation. This is our 90th year. The Federation was founded when they convened the first convention in New York City. The most important part was to convene to help and advocate and how we can help our brothers and sisters back home at that time. A lot of us are great-grandparents and other that Mariam talked about with regards to some survivors and others that we know. We're all descendants of genocide survivors and others, but it's important to advocate. Carmela Modila, what our problems are, and for us and others will tell you from advocacy efforts that we've done for many, many years. We've been trying to go to DC. They use us for their own interests, and when they don't adhere to their interests, they shift. One great thing happened with House Resolution 472, spearheaded by Congresswoman Debbie Lesko and Congresswoman Janet Schakowsky, bipartisan effort. Yes, it's a non-binding resolution, to accept the Semele genocide and the Assyrian genocides, and others will continue to follow. However, the importance of federation as a platform as to bring everybody together from our affiliate members from every state plus our partners, like Assyrian Aid Society, and now we're establishing a coalition. It's not an entity, but it's a coalition of partner organizations that come together. And I was proud on June 6th in Washington, D.C., spearheaded by Sam Dadmo, he's polarizing figure for some, and we all are. So not everybody loves everybody, but I mean, we all work together, like Carmela said, for Assyria. So, we have to find a way to work with everybody, and we build that, and God bless them for their efforts and his efforts in Washington and Arizona, and continuous, and Semele has been a big part. And so Congresswoman Lesko reintroduced this resolution, and the important part of it was that it was a sense of the Congress, but it's just an effort trying to just do something for Assyrians, because we have a big population in Arizona, so we got to do that. But there is so many more advocacy, not just back home, here in America. Mr. Asher Shiva, Vote Assyrian in Chicago, with along others in Illinois, just got $750,000 from the state of Illinois for organizations in America, and Illinois, sorry, to push programs for Assyrians here. Now, how can that help us with raising awareness and growth and mobilizing, right? Grassroots efforts. We've all been a part of the process, and some may have not, but some of us, I'm co-founder of Gishru as well, as Joe and others, and Mariam she went to Gishru, and so many more of you that are here went to Gishru. It's a big awareness raising event, because Bayacha Marashta, the Hudaya, the Jews, they have birthright Israel, and that's awakening for them. We need to do that here for our young people, so we can raise that awareness. But we also cannot forget about our Syrians in the diaspora. So to build where we are and to continue preserve our culture, promote what we can. You've seen the art exhibits, you've seen everything we're doing, and the big part is that advocacy has to continue, and we get to grow. I'm speaking fast because Kamal handled everything, and Mariam, but thank you. But one of the most important thing was that event on June 6th. You can look it up. They brought together over 36 organizations from political, cultural, you name it, individuals who are activists, families of the, from Marish Hashim's family, Melik Ishmael's family, other families that were historical in our aspect. They were all there as well. So this was a way of bringing people together on one mission. Mission was recognize Semele and then continue on for other steps. We've done great things. Assyrian Culture of Arizona and SAFO have done so much work with people in Arizona with regards to their efforts. Other organizations, Federation. We started with Assyrian American National Coalition. We built Assyrian National Policy Conference 2018, spent $100,000 in 2018 bringing our own PhDs and academics, and bring puppets for their souls, let our own PhDs to present our case. And it was an important aspect, but we have to continue to grow that. There has been symposiums and great programs in building, but it takes a team and efforts, and please, I encourage you to get involved. You saw that protest outside. We've done those protests. We can mobilize and we can do a lot. It just takes the votes. Get involved. Civic engagement is big. And then our voices matter, because if you're not going to vote with your, you can vote with your dollars, because, America, you can, get a couple campaign donors, and we've always had a few like, hey, 10,000 we raised for this person, that person. Yeah, it'll get you a seat with them, and they can try to push an agenda. We had Congressman Mark Kirk, who became our senator. He did that for us in Illinois. We had others that do it, but again, they will push an agenda to a certain point. Now, they called me the Assyrian extremist because I say I'm Assyrian. When I go to D.C., we go to the State Department, I'm Assyrian. I'm not going to push the Iraqi Christian. Yes, we are Christian, and I'm proud of that, but we're Assyrian first. So before anything, I'm Assyrian. I'm not going to play the multiple names game. I'm not going to play anything of that sort. Get it, where we came from and who we are. To play for, because the government wants us as Christians, or let's play the three-name game. We're not playing that anymore. we're watering down who we are as an identity, and that's what they want. So I'm sticking to Assyrian, and we have Christian groups, Assyrian Iraqi Christian Relief. Juliana Tamarazi, who's been a part of our coalition, she's in Texas right now doing a PhD, but she's been amazing continuing to work her efforts. Carmel and others, like she said, the non-Assyrian NGOs that are trying to help us, they will always push their own agendas for our cause. We need to have our own NGOs. That's why we have our partners on the ground. Gishruz does a great job, our partners, Assyrian Aid Society and others, and we want more to participate and be a part of it. But that's it for me. Thank you so much. We're open for questions.
Okay, thank you guys. We can do like one quick question and then one quick answer, if there are any. Okay, excellent.
Okay,
Let's get one last round of applause for the speakers.
Can I address something?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to take you just 1 minute. The advocacy work is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It can be extremely discouraging, but we still have to push through because we have no voice, we have no country. Armenians have a very strong ANCA organization with extremely strong lobbyists, and they are struggling with their issues. We have nothing, but we're pushing through. And by the way, they acknowledge us as Assyrians now in D.C. Thank you.
Please sign the QR code. Thank you.
إيمانويل أكسدن اتنرابا ناشا ليطي متبصلتا قد شكلي اتلا نسيانة بدنا كيسس ات injury law و بيالباية قريمخ إن آتن ينكل بتت بيتا خزموخن يطاني اتلوخن بوقارة مخبرون المنيان التلفون 8 أربع شوا وچو 8 تري وچو 5 خا يعني توكن بيت injuryrights.com شمي إلى توني كالغراكس كيام زمن لشان خلية يما
Welcome to Assyrian National Council of Illinois. Where we provide home care services for the elderly 60 years and older. For over 20 years, ANCI has worked closely with the state of Illinois to strengthen and expand our home care program. We currently service the Chicagoland area, including Cook, Kane, and DuPage counties. If you are interested in finding out more about our home care services, please visit us at our Chicago or Streamwood office.